Sometimes life reminds us how fragile love can be and how fleeting our moments with those we care for truly are. In today's story, we follow Huyen and Day as they face a heart-wrenching choice. Huyen's mother-in-law is gravely ill, and her only wish is to see her beloved granddaughter, Maya, one last time. Torn between protecting their child and fulfilling a dying woman's heartfelt plea, the couple must navigate fear, love, and sacrifice. Stay with us as we uncover this emotional journey. Don't forget to subscribe and join us to experience every touching moment. The illness had clung to Huyen's mother-in-law for months, but in recent days it had carved itself more deeply into her frail frame, leaving her scarcely more than a shadow of the strong, dignified woman she once was. The hospital room was dimly lit, washed with that gentle, unforgiving white glow that made everything appear more fragile. Outside, footsteps echoed faintly through the corridor, but inside the room, time felt suspended, thick, unmoving, tense. She lay on the bed with her back propped up by flattened pillows. Her breathing was uneven, the shallow rise and fall of her chest a painful reminder of how close she was to slipping away. Yet even through the fog of exhaustion, her eyes, clouded and losing their sharpness, remained fixed on the doorway, as though clinging to one last thread of hope. When Huyen and Day entered, the old woman stirred, her brows lifting ever so slightly. She struggled to lift her hand, but Day moved swiftly, taking her thin fingers gently into his warm palms. Huyen approached from the other side, trying to smile, though her throat tightened with emotion. She had always respected her mother-in-law, even when differences and misunderstandings had created small distances between them. But seeing her now, so small, so vulnerable, swept away every lingering tension and replaced it with a profound, aching tenderness. The old woman's lips trembled as she tried to speak. Day bent closer, and her voice came out as a faint whisper, so fragile it seemed it might break apart before reaching their ears. I want to see Maya, she breathed. Each word cost her effort, but she continued, her fingers curling weakly around Day's hand as though afraid he might misunderstand. Just once more, please, bring my granddaughter to me. The plea hung in the air, soft yet unbearably heavy. Huyen felt her heart clench. The room suddenly felt too small, too quiet. Maya had always been the light of the family, the tiny spark that made the old woman's eyes brighten even on her worst days. And now, standing on the edge of life, all she wanted was to hold that brightness one final time. Huyen nodded, though tears blurred her vision. Day swallowed hard, unable to respond at first. The old woman's request wasn't dramatic or loud. It was gentle, sincere, filled with a love that asked for nothing except the comfort of a last goodbye. And in that quiet moment, both Huyen and Day felt the weight of her wish settle deeply into their hearts. The drive home unfolded beneath a sky heavy with late afternoon clouds, their muted gray drifting slowly as though mirroring the heaviness in Huyen's heart. She sat in the passenger seat with her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes fixed on the blur of buildings and trees passing by. But she wasn't truly seeing any of it. Her mind was still in that quiet hospital room, still hearing the fragile tremor in her mother-in-law's voice, still seeing the desperate softness in the older woman's tired eyes. The image followed her like a shadow, clinging to her thoughts and tugging at memories she hadn't realized she'd stored away. Though their relationship had never been perfect, it had been real, filled with small disagreements, yes, but also moments of shared laughter, unexpected kindness, and a bond that had slowly grown through time and circumstance. Huyen had always admired the way the old woman's face brightened each time Maya toddled into the room, how her hands, though stiff with age, became gentle and careful whenever she held the child. And now, The thought that those hands might never again cradle Maya sent a tremor down Huyen's spine. She blinked rapidly, forcing back the sting in her eyes. Day, gripping the steering wheel, drove more slowly than usual. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It was dense, a silence filled with unspoken fears and tender hopes neither knew how to express yet. After several minutes, he exhaled a deep, weary sigh. "I think we should let Maya see her," he said quietly, eyes still on the road. "If we wait too long, we might regret it." His voice was steady, but she could hear the struggle behind it. As strong as he tried to appear, Huyen knew the sight of his mother's fading strength had shaken him deeply. She turned to look at him, noticing the tension in his jaw, the way his knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. He wasn't just thinking about Maya, he was thinking about the chance to give his mother even one last moment of peace. Huyen swallowed. "I know," she whispered. "I want Maya to see her too. I'm scared. She's still so small. What if it frightens her?" Dan nodded slowly. "Maybe it will, but maybe she won't understand fear the way we do. Maybe she'll just see someone who loves her." His words lingered, warm and painful all at once. Huyen leaned back against the seat, letting them wash over her. Perhaps he was right. Perhaps love, even in its final moments, was gentler than fear. And as the car rolled on, she felt the faintest shift in her chest, a soft, hesitant acceptance beginning to take root. That evening, after tucking Maya into bed, Huyen and Day sat together at the small dining table, the soft glow of the overhead light casting long, quiet shadows across the room. The house was unusually still. Even the usual hum of the refrigerator seemed muted, as if the world outside had paused, giving space to the weight of their thoughts. Huyen traced the rim of her teacup absently, her mind drifting back to the hospital, to the fragile hands that had begged to see Maya one last time. Every word her mother-in-law had spoken echoed in her ears, each one pressing gently, insistently on her heart. Day reached across the table and brushed his hand over hers, a silent gesture of solidarity. "We can't let her leave without seeing Maya," he said softly. His voice carried both resolve and the tremor of worry. Huyen nodded, swallowing hard. She knew he was right. Maya's presence could bring comfort, warmth, and perhaps a fleeting joy to the woman who had been so integral to their family's life. Yet, alongside that certainty ran a thread of fear. What if the visit overwhelmed Maya, or left her confused and anxious? The thought made Huyen's chest tighten, a subtle ache she could not ignore. They spoke in whispers then, careful not to disturb the sleeping child. Plans unfolded tentatively, like careful brushstrokes on a fragile canvas. Perhaps Maya could stay with her grandparents for a few days, enough to spend precious moments at her grandmother's side. They discussed ways to prepare her gently, to frame the visit in a story she could understand, so it would feel safe and loving rather than frightening. Each suggestion, each precaution was laced with care, a manifestation of their shared devotion to both Maya and Huyen's mother-in-law. Huyen closed her eyes for a moment, letting the silence envelop her before speaking again. I want her last days to be filled with light, with love. If Maya can give her that, even for a little while, I think it's worth it." Her voice trembled, but there was clarity in her words, a conviction born of love and empathy. Day nodded, squeezing her hand gently. He too understood the gravity of the moment. It wasn't just a visit. It was a chance to create a memory, to offer comfort, and to allow a bond between generations to shine one final time. In the quiet of their home, the couple felt the weight of responsibility settle upon them, but alongside it came a sense of purpose. They would navigate this delicate path, balancing care, caution, and compassion, so that Maya could bring the warmth of her presence to someone who had loved her unconditionally. And in that shared resolve, a soft, bittersweet hope emerged that even in the shadow of approaching loss, love could leave a lasting, tender imprint on their hearts.